To this Friday. Thank you, Dr. Jerry. This Friday session with Dr. Tiffany Green, Dr. Jerry Sampson. I am Allison Farrell. If I have not met you, I'm Fireside's Director of Marketing. I'm so excited for this session today. Have known Dr. Green for quite some time, or a few years now. We met at one of Dr. Jerry's Nathos sessions and have just loved connecting with her and learning about her practice. And over the last year, she has done some amazing things with AI and transformation in her practice. I will really quickly remind everybody, if you've not already heard from us about the AI tool that Fireside is kind of co-piloting and rolling out, more information to come on supply flow in the next couple of months. But wanted to quickly drop that in. But I will just as quickly turn it over to Dr. Jerry to introduce our amazing guest for today. But here, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. We can go through questions at the end or throughout the presentation, kind of whatever is Dr. Tiffany's preference. But you can submit all of your questions in that Q&A function. But we've got everyone muted just to cut down on background noise. But as always, we will send out the recording. So if you have to hop early or if you want to send it to anybody, you will be able to do so. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Jerry. But so glad that everybody could join us today and good to see all of you here.
AI. Um, I think most people are aware that artificial intelligence has actually transformed the world. As Jay Eddy said to me recently, we really are living in an age right now where you can find out anything, which definitely has been my experience. And I only became interested in this. I don't know, Tiffany, probably around the same time you did, which was how long ago?
Year and a half, maybe. Maybe a
I'm
year,
not
year and
sure
a half.
that I'm not
It
sure
may
it's
not
two
even be that
years.
long.
Yeah. So um, typically these things get started. Well, Tiffany, how did you get involved in this? Nah. Well, we might do that later. Um, what I'm curious about, because I think if people aren't aware, I stopped private practice about 8 years ago, and the question of how these things are being implemented in a pediatric dental practice are going to be directed directly to Tiffany. This guy, I think his last, now I can't think of his last name, the head of NVIDIA, it's not Wong, it's Jason. So anyway, one of the big AI people on earth was asked a question, Tiffany, of are people going to lose their jobs to artificial intelligence? And he said, no, but you will lose your job to someone who understands artificial intelligence when you don't. And that has become incredibly obvious to me. What I'm curious about, Tiffany, knowing that you're one of the individuals that you found out about this and you went full bore all the way into it from what I understand, essentially immediately. And I think what's a curiosity, because I really doubt that most the pediatric dentists listening to this and watching this uh, really have any grasp at all about how to incorporate this into a pediatric dental practice. Now, unless Tiffany changes up on the topic, which I'm happy for her to do, this does not have to do with pediatric dental diagnosis, prognosis, and that's not what's happening according to people like Jed Best. That it's really not ready for, and Martha Ann said the same thing. It's not ready for that. Tiffany, how has the use of artificial intelligence changed your patient specifically? We'll go with patient first, if you'll allow, and then team communication. How has that changed that? Why should people actually be interested in becoming used to this and proficient at it as soon as possible?
Well, uh, hello guys. It's really nice to be here. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Fireside. Um, it has totally recreated how we engage, what our vision, maybe even how our mission is framed, based upon how we've incorporated AI in all of our policies, procedures, communications, marketing. Yeah, everything that we do is solely based now on integrating what is referred to as our AI generated brand and voice. And that is where Jay Eddy hooked me essentially. And that brand and voice was my aha moment. And from there, we have taken that one page essentially document and used it to recraft, rebrand our office as a whole. So it's totally different than what you can say. There's sort of two platforms which can merge together but are separate in clinical AI and interpretations of radiographs, et cetera, and truly crafting a message and being able to use that message to impact your patients, your perception within your community, parents, and ultimately your team, and how you come together to essentially rework and serve your patients more efficiently and effectively based upon who you are.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is it's a um, verification, clarification of your brand and what you represent. Now, a number of years ago, now I was on a panel discussion, and there was this young fellow, very hip, very cool. You know, he was what was happening right now for sure compared to Grandpa. And he was a branding expert. He was not a dentist. He was a branding marketing expert. And I asked him on the panel, what does a brand mean? Like uh, the Coca-Cola brand, the Apple brand, what does that mean? And he said it's very straightforward. Your brand is the promise you make. So think about Coca-Cola. There was one of their taglines a while back was open happiness, open a Coca-Cola. I'd like to buy the world a Coke. Those are all branding images. So how, for example, for your pediatric dental practice, and Tiffany, if the group isn't aware, she's a solo owner, right?
Correct.
And the name of your business is Southern Smiles.
Correct.
So give me a before and after, how this has changed. You said your brand and your voice. Give me a before and after, if you will, about before AI versus once you incorporated AI.
I think before it's what you would consider average. It's the standard document that conveys who you think you are. And whether that is in a procedure manual, whether that's within a website, whether that is who maybe anything that you are portraying to the public and within your quote unquote house, your business, your company. And AI took that and recrafted the message. So now it comes with essentially what we our central source of truth. And it allows us to merge our brand identity with ultimately our communication style. Across and is portrayed from our office has that same communication style. So it's all one voice stating the same message.
So, so to speak, everybody's on the same page.
That's the ultimate goal. Some days it works better than others, but yes, that is the ultimate goal.
So, if I'm a parent, for example,
Mhm,
what would the what would this very clear image be? And I'm talking about from the time I might check your website
mhm.
to the time I pick up the phone.
That is the point, and that is the goal, Jerry, is that from when they look us up online to the message that they get over the phone, to the text messages they get to confirm their appointments, to the honestly the walkout for post-op instructions for any procedure and any gamut before and after that. We want the message to be clear. It's going to come with compassion, it's going to come with clarity, it's going to come with the things that we value within our practice. And that can be totally different for you and your practice, what that was, or for anyone else on this call. It can be so different. It's who you are, what you want to portray, but that's all AI. And within a matter of minutes, it can be done to where your patients and their families know exactly who you are before you walk in, before they walk into your office, and they still feel, and ultimately that is something we in my office feel very passionate about, is that it's not necessarily what we say or how we say it, as to how we make them feel, because that's really what they're going to remember after they leave. And that's the ultimate culmination of how I think AI can affect every practice if they utilize it.
Yeah, it's a marvelous way to put it because Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said." She
Mhm.
said, "People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And we've all had the experience of having inconsistent customer service, which is or inconsistency in friendships or inconsistency in other relationships, family relationships, um, trying to get along with someone who you never know how they're going to react. Are they in a good mood, so to speak? And that isn't just a deal killer for the business, it's a deal killer for the atmosphere that you expect to have within your pediatric dental practice. So the word consistency, I think, is quite important. How is this different than a mission statement?
I think it encompasses the mission statement because you're taking it a step further. You are implementing it in everything that you're putting out there to the public, either by paper, by email, by spreading that into everything.
So, for example, let me have an example. So, for example, I call the office and I get an appointment as a new patient.
Mhm.
Can you give me an example of uh, how AI has strategically improved
Those
what you've done?
scripts, those scripts that we are using. So then we incorporated essentially, um, and it may be good to sort of say we created our brand and voice, and that can be done with any AI platform. And please don't get caught up in whatever platform that is, because they all deliver something unique and something different. And AI works because you re-examine what AI gives you. So I do believe Allison's going to make available a prompt that is a prompt that pertains to my practice, my name, everything, full disclosure is open. And then you can change those things to your practice, who you are, create your own brand and voice. And then you take that into that brand and voice, and then your message that you already have, whatever that script is that that person is going to use when they pick up the phone on that initial new patient exam. And when you blend and you allow AI to merge your brand and voice and the message you already have, that immediately incorporates who you are as a practice. So to where before you may have had a script, everyone's going to take their own tone to that. And I actually like that they give a little bit of personality of who they are, but it may have been a little stale or it may have been a little plain. It may not have focused on engaging and cultivating the overall feel that we want our patients to have. And so we've taken that bland or maybe short or straightforward greeting to something that immediately comes in with compassion, with immediately comes in with, oh my, we can't wait for you to meet Dr. Tiffany and her team. We're so excited. Everything that they feel when they walk in the door, we have then incorporated into that initial telephone call.
Hmm. And so before you did this versus after you did this, is it just a matter of clarification or is it more than that?
I will say it probably is about clarity and specifics at its core. But going back to the way you make them feel, I've received more compliments from parents stating, I from the moment we picked up the phone until I'm leaving now, the same feeling we have had. We are so excited to be here. This is such a great feeling. I can tell you really enjoy what you do. I can tell
Uh-huh.
your office is happy to be here today. Now, is every day perfect? No, please don't take that the wrong way. It's not. And we don't always do things ideally. We make mistakes, but the compliments that you get from parents and the kids that immediately want to hug you, they feel that regardless of the reviews, read them. It's very clear. Um, they have we have managed to merge that message. And for me, we have ideally cultivated that feeling and they get that start to finish.
Yeah. So yeah, again, what I'm thinking about the image that one has, for example, of going to a place of business, uh, a physician, a dentist, a restaurant, a show, for
Mhm.
example. I'm a big fan of Cirque du Soleil, and so the the idea is to meet what you have put out as an expectation. Would that be an accurate statement
Right. Yes.
from everybody on the team?
It honestly is less about me and more about them, uh, because they spend a nominal amount of time with me and they spend the majority of their time with other team members. And if we as a whole can't bring this all together, then ultimately we may not be successful at full implementation of the desire of integrating AI in who we are.
So it sounds like this prompt business for people who aren't
Mhm.
really familiar with exactly what that means. Can you clarify that for everyone?
I'd be happy to. I think a lot of people are familiar with essentially AI, and there are a ton of people that use Chat GPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot on maybe even a daily basis. And you may ask that AI model for help me calculate this. You take some pictures, you want them to add up some numbers. I think a lot of people utilize these models in a lot of life now, especially the younger generation that are much younger than you and I, Jerry. Um, the key for me in utilizing AI to a maximum is how you ask AI to work. And that is where prompts come in. And that is where um, the more you give AI and the better your quote unquote prompt is, then the better the output. And I use a prompt format that incorporates persona, task, context, and format. And so essentially, I'm going to initially define the role or identity that AI should assume. And then I'm going to give it a task. I'm going to ask it, tell it, specify the action or the maybe objective that you want AI to accomplish. The context is I'm going to give it background information so that when it gives me the format, it's only getting the facts that I want it to include. And then the format, I'm going to tell it exactly how I want that output structure to look. I'm going to tell it the length, the style, how to arrange it. I'm going to give it all of that information on the front end. So the more you give AI with specifics and prompts, then the better the output and the more defined that's going to be. So, sort of in what um, with the Brandon voice, I'll come back to that because that was very impactful for me. I, in giving it this action, I'm telling this, and you'll see this in the prompt, that I want it to analyze, I want it to build, I want it to create this Brandon voice utilizing business directories, utilizing Google reviews. I'm going to put it specifics into that prompt. And then I'm going to tell it how to give me the result. And from that information, if you use that prompt, that you will see that it's going to give you all the output. And at the end of the day, I think research says that most people give AI like less than 13 words of a prompt and
Right.
probably get a, some good information. But if you were to stepwise structure that a little more defined, I think your output um, would totally amaze you in what it will give you and how specific it can be.
So I'll give you a non-dental example. For some reason, during my I wouldn't even call it semi-retirement, whatever it is I'm doing now, and filling these gaps and delightfully attractive voids that have been created since I've dialing it back. Tiffany, I haven't told you this. I've become I think I might buy a drone, and because I'm thinking because of some of the property I own, I'm thinking how cool would that be? And there's wildlife on the property, so
Very cool.
on my property where I am now in the mountains, there's black bears. And when you're lucky, because you don't get to see them very often, uh, I'm thinking when I spot one, I could fly the drone near the
Mhm.
black bear because the thing will probably just think it's a hummingbird or something. And so what I wanted to find out from AI, based on what I had found out actually from you and from Jay Eddy, is I thought, all right, I'm going to tell AI here's how old I am. I'm a male. This is what I'm brand new at this. I've never flown a drone in my life. I don't want to crash into things. I don't want a cheap model. I want it to come back to me before it runs out of electricity because I'd already read enough to know that wouldn't be good. Then I've got to hike through the woods and getting destroyed by chiggers, and the bear may get me. I'd like to avoid. So, um, and I'd like a medium to high range cost. I gave it all of that information. Before that, I just said, I'm interested in buying a drone. So, what it spit back at me, I thought, whoa, this is exactly, not kind of, it's
Mhm.
absolutely exactly what I needed to know. I've already made a decision. I just have to decide if I'm going to actually buy the thing or fool around with it for a few hours and put it in a closet with other things I mean to use someday. So, um, give me an example, a real life example in your pediatric dental practice. And I realize it's a prompt, and you said something about Allison sending this out, but how would you construct a prompt for someone asking your advice? Well, how would I do this for my practice to incorporate things you just said? Just something kind of a skeletal outline. Can you do that?
Sure. I would just ask AI to give me a prompt. It's that easy. So I would go into AI and I would ask AI to create a prompt.
You're asking AI to do it. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
So then you ask AI to create your prompt for you. So using all the things, and then you give it all the information, and then it will create the prompt for you with place markers
Place
for
markers.
the specifics that you want to include. So then you copy that prompt and then you open a new chat and fill in the place markers for whatever that is. If you want to redo your sedation guidelines, if you want to redo your ortho um, educational paperwork. It could be you want to take a vacation to Italy. I don't know. You can do it for anything that you want to use it for. But for me, the easiest thing is, I mean, I have a set number of prompts, but I just go in and ask AI to create the prompt using the persona, task, context, format structure. And voila, it comes back with a really nice prompt.
So, for example, I might say, if I were doing this, I might say, I would give it my age, that I'm in solo private practice
Mhm.
of, in my case, of orthodontics, but I have a background in both pediatric dentistry and orthodontics. I've been in practice for this long. This is the number of patients I typically see per day. These are the number of new case starts. Um, and the more detail I give it and what my
Absolutely.
objectives are.
Mhm.
So,
And so
is
if you wanted to market a new iTero, because we're going to say Jerry has now gone back into practice and he is going to all clear liners, blow your scalp off. Um, yes.
like
Uh,
that.
ultimately, that's what you would tell it. You want to market this new iTero and this new system of Invisalign, clear liners, whatever that's going to be. You would go, I would personally go in and ask it for a prompt. I would say, this is my practice. I'm looking to incorporate clear liners. Personally, iTero Invisalign. Um, I want to incorporate this new piece of equipment and new arch form development within the next 3 months. And it would create a prompt. And then after that, I would create the all the place markers that I needed, run that AI in a new chat, and it would spit out all the information that I wanted, with the bottom portion of that being the marketing material, because that's what ultimately I wanted. And then I would also incorporate my brand and voice so that that marketing and material sounded like me in our practice. I mean, ultimately, I think the most impactful things that AI can bring to you is um, it within a practice. Yes, it can help with website design. Yes, it can help with stuff, social media stuff. But marketing new equipment, marketing new associates. We've already talked a bit about communications, and I think that's communications not only what we've really hit on, communications within your team to your audience or your patients and their families, but it also can help with how you communicate within your team. But ultimately, I think team optimization, divining and detailing roles within your team, and some of the other things that have been very impactful for my office are like benchmark evaluations or like annual reviews that you do with your team. There,
Hmm.
that's another part of this that has changed how we do things and how we communicate amongst ourselves.
So, for example, my private practice of orthodontics was limited, as you know, Tiffany, to children and teenagers.
Mhm.
I didn't really care much for adult dental patients, um, which was very mutually agreeable because adult dental patients didn't care for me either. And I would actually, from what you're telling me, if I was creating the prompt, I would explain that what I offer is I only have one assistant. The all of the orthodontists in my area have three or more assistants. I only have one office location. The orthodontists have two or three office locations, and my target is to provide a boutique or concierge high level of customer service. And I'd like my brand and voice is, I think it's
Mhm.
right. Is that right? I'd
Yes,
like
correct.
that to be incorporated into the marketing and into things I put on social media. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Yes.
So what I'm getting at is I just got back, Tiffany, from Case Western. and also UNLV and speaking to the pediatric dental and orthodontic residents. And I asked them, if I were to hire you, tell me what you bring to the party. What do you have that I need that I don't have? What makes you unique? Yeah, I know you're a pediatric dentist. I know you're an orthodontist, but tell me a little about yourself. You're saying that that should be brought into the prompt. Is that right?
I'm, yes, I'm a big believer, and that's how you're going. That's where, honestly, that's the secret sauce, Jerry. That's how this turns into something really special. It's it's not just auto-generated information. When you incorporate who you really are, what you bring to the table, the secret sauce, the ooha moments, whatever, that's how um, you get something that is very usable and really makes a difference.
Yeah, for example, Tiffany, you've known me for a while, but my comment about myself is there might be people smarter and there might be people more talented, but nobody will try harder than I will to get this right. Um, so that would be the type of thing that would that be the type of thing that you would include in the prompt?
You could,
Yeah, I mean,
you
for
could, that
example, I'm
you
gonna
could,
ask you I'm gonna ask you a question you may be uncomfortable with, but therefore I'm gonna ask it anyway.
sure.
About you yourself,
Mhm.
what would you say that you would put into the prompt about you, Tiffany Green, and the office culture that is unique in your area? You're in Flowood, Mississippi, outside of Jackson, right?
Yes.
So what do you feel sets you and the team apart? And I'm asking you not for a prompt, I'm asking what would you tell the prompt?
Mhm. So I would put into that prompt the idea of number one, we are a one doctor practice, one office location. I've had team member with me since I opened the doors almost 19 years ago. We look to add new personalities, that new people that buy into our office philosophy. And that philosophy includes um, compassion, and compassion being a thoughtful way to always do the best we can and always do the right thing. It would include a bit about my personality in that I'm fairly um, direct, but very high energy and
And
um,
charming, I would say. I'll
I'm
throw that in.
just going to
You're
bring
a
a
very
little bit of
charming person.
that is part of what I would say. I'm also very active, and so I don't like to be still. However, the one of the most important things about our practice is that I never want to see so many kids in one day that I can't remember something unique about each one of those kids and their family. So
Nice.
that is and you can ask anybody that is a part of our team. They hear that all the time. And I want to be able to remember in 6 months that Johnny was going from here to soccer shots. And I want to know and be able to remember each of those facts about these patients and these kids that become my ultimate family. That is what I would include because that's what I think makes me and our office special is that relationship that I value with them. And so I would include that. And that is ultimately what you're going to get as a difference. And we talk about this is it doesn't make my practice better than the one next door because maybe they see twice as many kids. It just makes my practice me. And I think who you are is important in delivering this message. And telling AI directly that will then give you the best outcome.
Yeah, that's really well stated. Now, uh, clarify for us um, how did you get team buy-in, as they call it these days, and get everybody understanding that this is really who we are? But if that's not who you are, then you probably need to find a different career or a different to go to somebody else. How did you get the team to act? Because you'd mentioned that and I think that's essential because you did mention that the online Google feedback or whatever feedback you're getting has been noticeably more attractive than before you did this. How did you get the team to actually work, digest all of this and start using it?
Mhm. It's a work in progress. Every single day, every new strategy is they're continually hearing. So it's culminating one event over another event over another event. And then sometimes things happen within an office to where those team members have their own ooha moments. There have been situations within the past couple of weeks, even that potential bumps in the road that could have thrown our whole philosophy, our whole mantra of who we are. It could have thrown us off.
Can you give me a specific example?
Um, there was a not so great event that resulted in us maybe not ideally handling um, uh, necessarily an OSHA violation, but we dropped a liquid on a patient and we probably didn't address that as even we knew we should have. Even after going over the policies, the procedures, all of the things on a very routine, regular basis, we mishandled this ever so slightly, but we could have done it better. And we knew that we had to rectify this. And immediately, and you've said this many times, it's how you meet those people with compassion and concern as how something doesn't blow up bigger than what it potentially could be. But we took this, and these employees or these team members were able to see how we responded as a leadership group because of how we had implemented who we are into AI to even our communications with them. We implemented our brand and voice in what we wanted to say based upon not our emotions, but this situation happened. How do we address this situation? And with compassion, however, I mean, we've got to do things correctly. And so, how we deliver that message to the other employees, they were able to see that and step back and say, this is, we've got to do better as a team. We've got to improve these things. We continue to hear about these philosophies, and they're either really happy to be there, now they're upset that another team member didn't respond the way they thought. Now it's boom, 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 boom. Everybody's becoming more involved in who we are. And I mean, this situation allowed us to take something that potentially was not great and turn it into a culmination of reinforcement of our culture, of our mission statement, of our core values. And every step along the way, we used AI and our brand and voice in order to cultivate that message.
So when you say we, is it you and the office manager?
We are the team of, yes, and practice manager and myself are really the leadership people. And we have people, I mean, obviously, that are involved at different levels. But my advice to you doctors is bring that practice manager on in this journey. Teach them what you are learning. Allow them to use this because they're going to use it to the benefit of your practice. And my practice manager has done an amazing job at that. And she probably could testify to being able to visually see others now buy into that message. And it's the whole AI integration has allowed us to incorporate that in so many other steps that we just didn't do before. And maybe there are a lot of people better than I am out there, trust me. But I was not as focused on maybe a unified message and how powerful that could be. And AI has allowed us to integrate that into all the processes, all of the communications.
So for example, you said it was some sort of spill.
Correct.
Did you actually go into the artificial intelligence platform and explain in detail what happened and asked, so what should I do about
Essentially.
this? Or
Hmm.
that's essentially what you did.
And it ranged from everything to how do you document this in the chart? How do you, yes, how, I mean, based in communications, like this is what do we need to say to the parents? How do we, how do we say this to our employees? How do we use this as a teaching environment? Um, every step from what, I mean, I guess you probably, I would have fumbled through before, full disclosure. Um, it took us essentially step by step through the process of how to handle this in the most appropriate manner based upon who we are as an office. And that did not include sweeping it under the rug, which
Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
I
That's,
mean, some
yeah.
people would have done it. And that's, I'm not, there's no judgment, but that it meant that we hit this head on um, with the thought process of we're always going to do right and we're always going to do the best that we can and we're always going to own our mistakes and we're always going to um, love well. And in this case, I mean, I think we hoped for the best, and I think we have acquired the best, but it would not have been done without AI.
Yeah, because I think in these moments, the normal human reaction, absolutely normal, unless you have a lot of training, is you panic.
Hmm.
And everybody knows, I mean, I know Tiffany, you're an athlete, and I've done some sporty things myself in a previous lifetime. If you panic, you're really in trouble because then you lose any idea of direction. So what my question is when this spill happened, did you, while, did it involve a patient or was a patient not involved? A patient was involved.
It involved a patient, and the worst of this is that I didn't know about it until the next day.
Okay, a little more info. And then did you just throw that into the AI and say, this is what happened in detail? It happened yesterday. And what's the best
It,
course of action? Is that kind of what you did?
after the practice manager and I looked at each other and was probably some things that went into our head and probably came out of our mouths that probably should remain unsaid. Um, we
Some
both
colorful
probably
language.
was probably more on my part than her part. Uh, we both stepped away and had a minute to digest, okay, what's next? And essentially at the same time, we were both doing the same thing. And that was immediately exhaling and saying, um, okay, let's reset. Okay, how do we handle this appropriately? And I went to my computer and opened up AI. She went to her computer and opened up AI, and we both essentially she came back in my office. She goes, I think I have a plan. And I was like, oh, really? I'd love to hear it. And it was the exact same things that I had been seeing and researching. And then from there, I felt very comfortable and confident. Okay, she's going to handle this from her position moving forward. And of course, there were things that I had to do as the doctor and documentation that I had to make and all those things. But that was all integrated into um, the information that we got from AI. I mean,
That that's incredible because I think a lot of folks, from what I see, I kind of haunt some of these blogs, pediatric dental and orthodontics. Some may or may not have noticed or may not care that I rarely put anything on there, almost never. Even on things where I think, yeah, I think I know how I would handle that. Uh, Whether it's a treatment problem or a patient or a parent problem, I think, nah. But this sounds much better because you're scooping from artificial intelligence, which means everything one can imagine, everything from personal experience to all the psychology behind it, is being uh, is fed back to you
mhm.
for you to make a rational decision sort of like saying to some heavy duty expert, uh, what should be done under these circumstances. Is that a fair statement?
Very fair. And I think it also brings in uh yeah, the aspect of some legal potential problems. It also brings in aspects of HR and team communications. I mean, it is all all the advice that you would want to glean, it's there for you.
So, and I'm thinking that my next comment slash question is dealing with team members. So, for example, let's say you have everybody's would I think most people would jump to, well, a team member with a problem. All right, we have that, but we also have team members that you never want them to leave. Never, never, never. They need to be, they're part of the DNA,
Hmm.
if you will, of the culture. You don't want them going anywhere. So would that be fair to say that you might prompt the AI, I have this particular person, male or female, as you might choose, and this is how old they are. Here's how long they've been with the practice. Here's why they're doing a phenomenal job, and I want to make sure they don't go anywhere. You can even say that here's how much they're being paid.
Hmm.
Because one of the people in Nathos who got in touch with me recently, Tiffany, actually it's an orthodontist, and he on very short term notice, like very short term, the practice he had been with for north of 15 years, Tiffany. The owner walks in and said, "Well, I've got something to tell you. I can't keep you on. I, the practice has fallen off to the point where I can't keep paying you what I've been paying you. As a matter of fact, I need the money myself. I've got family emergencies." And like that, he's got a 60-day notice. You're out of here. So the orthodontist calls me up. I was admittedly very impressed with how controlled he was. And he said, I cannot afford to stop private practice. And here's where I live. And he said, what do you think I ought to do? And I said, well, it's what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And what I did, Tiffany, while I was talking to him, while he was talking, I put my microphone on mute and started putting in everything I knew about the guy into Gemini.
Hmm.
And this is the area he's in. This is the amount of money he's been making. This is how the amount of money he needs to have. What advice can you offer? And while I'm talking, because as you know, this thing happens so quickly, you think, how does this, who's doing this? Where is this? I'm giving this guy information, and this guy is saying to me, God bless you. This is unbelievable. And I had to tell him, well, there are two simple initials that you need to be thanking, not me. I just typed it into AI. What? What are you talking about? And everything it said, like it even said, if this orthodontist, because I specified, is willing to drive 45 minutes to an hour, he would make more money at another city, which is about 45 minutes to 60 minutes away, that they're paying a high, and without me asking, other than saying this is the amount of money he needs. So, just as a wordy example of things, what about a team member that you're thinking, all right, this individual is just not performing up to standards? And as the elegant Gay Lowry used to say, you're a lot better off to rehab them than to get
Hmm.
out the hatchet. And she used to, you remember, she used to refer to me as the executioner because I just said,
Yes.
just fire him. And she said,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. You're not a business guy. That's the worst. What you have to go through to find
To
somebody
hire.
else is so, can you give
Yeah.
us your thoughts on team improvement?
So we typically kind of refer to this as team improvement or corrective action. And so we will essentially give them 30 days, 60 days, 90 days in order to whether it's your tone with other employees, whether it is something as basic as wiping down a sterilization, there, whatever that is. And most of the time it's something with communication, with other team members seems to be a hot probably topic in offices is interpersonal communication. And so we will say these are the things that have occurred. These our expectations are here. Can you give us steps in order to get there?
Specific steps, well said.
And so we would like outlined expectations on we need to have brief meetings every 2 weeks. And so giving it that, and then we want this to be resolved at a certain point in time. So say resolution would be 60 days, and you would want to kind of circle back every 2 weeks. And so then it would be positive feedback on encounters, maybe with say assistants and hygienists because they can sometimes get cranky. It okay, so then we would go back into that same chat eventually and maybe say, this is the progress, these are the things that we are still struggling with. How can we communicate with said team member more clearly in order to improve on this one detail, whatever that
How
is?
do you
Maybe
how do you
it's
go back to
tone.
the same chat? Do you save the
Um,
chat?
Typically, well, specifically in Gemini, the chats are listed on the left side I'm typically use Gemini as a personal favorite at
Yeah.
this moment. Um, but the chat history is on the left side of that platform. And so you can go back into that chat, you can copy a prompt, you can recreate that prompt in a different chat, you can pull back history. And so I'll go back into that history in order to re-inquire because a lot of times at the end it'll ask you a question like, what do you want to do about this? Or do you want me to tell
Yeah.
you X or Y? And so then you can go back in and say, maybe there's still one point that we need to hone in on and follow back up with that. And it will get, and I will ask it to say, how can I communicate this in maybe a direct, but not too harsh of a way.
Conflict. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
and
too
there's got to
confrontational.
be some essentially some uplifting that goes along with it. I find that this younger generation needs a lot more coddling and positive like reinforcement, of which sometimes I'm not the best at doing because I'm just like, get the job done, let's go. And so
Yeah.
for me
There
and
may
my
there may
personality,
be an age difference between us, but not a cultural difference. I'm thinking, come
yeah,
on, man, stop by Home Depot, pick yourself up a little substance, and which is a polite way of putting it, and get the job done. Yeah, we have that in
that,
common, but it doesn't work
yeah,
with that's
no,
when
that's
today's
my
culture,
personality too. And
right?
one of the things that AI has helped me with is softening that presentation with and I'm still not perfect all the time. Sometimes it's just a long day and I'm done and I just throw off it and it's just out. But it does help me in how I'm engaging, hopefully in a manner and in a way that they hear better and that they understand a little more clearly. And I think that is for me, that's been a very powerful outcome of AI is seeing how I may need to react or say things that meets this new generation's understanding.
Yeah, that years ago, well, now it's 35 or 40 years ago when I sat for the American Board of Orthodontists exam, back when you couldn't take it online. You had to take,
Mhm.
and it was 12 orthodontic cases, including post-retention. And you sat before three board examiners across a very skinny conference table. It was they wanted to be intimidating. And before I left Tiffany, for St. Louis to sit for the final phase, and they were failing 65 to 70%. They don't do that anymore. I mean, they took delight, it seemed, in intimidating and then failing people. And I thought, yeah, well, it ain't that kind of party. I'm doing this one time, and they're not going to ask me anything about my cases. They're my cases. They can't ask me something I don't know about my own cases, like why I made these decisions. And Betty, my wife, said to me, "What are you going to do if one of these examiners comes at you?" And I said, Betty, you wear a number. I mean, she said, Ace, you're not that hard to spot in a crowd. And of course, this was all because I've always been interested and enthusiastic about speaking about orthodontics to pediatric dentists. And the orthodontic guard at that time really didn't like that. That's why she was asking me. And I thought, Tiffany, about that question when I was on the plane. And I thought about what am I going to do if somebody does come at me? Because especially I was a lot younger and I enjoyed having what one could call a very quickly lit and short fuse. I don't really like that at all anymore. And so I trashed that part of my personality long ago, it seems. And it happened. One of the examiners started coming at me. And I already knew, and I'm thinking about AI, like, what should you do? What shouldn't you do? And I already knew that when this guy was coming at me, here's what I said to him, Tiffany, is I said, Doctor, and I'll do him the favor, although I'm no fan of his, and I think he might be dead, but his son's alive. I said to him, Dr. Gablagas, I'm getting the impression that the responses I'm giving to your questions are responses that are irritating you. And the last thing I'd like to do right now is aggravate you. And I said it real calmly. He said, Dr. Sampson, whoop, and he's not supposed to know my name. Dr. Sampson, it's not a matter of irritation. It's a matter of point clarification. I said, I'll try to be more clear. And then he got off my case. So my point is I'm thinking about an AI-like experience where because Betty asked me this question, had that not happened, I would not have been thinking about what if somebody comes at me in an aggressive way, trying to actually, this clown was trying to belittle me. And I already had decided what I was going to say if it happened. So that's where I see a very real world thing going on with AI based on what you're saying,
Mhm.
like with team members. How did you actually get so? I mean, you said that it lit you up when Jay Eddie talked about um, when you first heard about this. So, what steps did you take, by the way, once you realized I need to get into this?
So yes, this is all Jay Eddie's fault, or maybe it's just a blessing, but he has been extraordinarily gracious in answering questions, in essentially holding my hand throughout this entire learning process, of which it's just a continuum. But I immediately he was looking to make a presentation and he asked for some information about my office, and I was like, sure, this is gonna be great because I'm going to learn stuff. I'll find new things out about our practice, how we can be better. And so then it was more about the brand and voice. And then we started totally recreating sedation guidelines and looking into deep research and how amazingly accurate that was in a very massive document. And then we just slowly started incorporating it into um, from start to finish within the office. And so it, from the beginning, it was so mesmerizing to me. Like this output can affect, and it's little nuances sometimes, but they are very impactful in delivery. And it hit a chord with me in how it made us more cohesive and it impacted the way our patients and our team members were feeling. And so then it was just one thing after another thing. And then, somebody says, oh, you can use it in this. And I was like, well, let's see what this is going to do. And so more of a curiosity at that point. Um, and just continually, yes, there's always times to where we're busy. Right now, this summer, probably none of you have time to implement any of this, but put it on the shelf, and in a month when kids go back to school, I mean, now you have a couple of hours of free time every once in a while, and just start playing around with it. And that's when it sort of lit the fire was lit. And um, it's just a continuum of learning.
Well, um, just a few things because I think that the school bell's about to ring, or I can hear it ringing now. There are two things. Tiffany will be one of the featured presenters, sorry, at the University of Tennessee Dr. Heber Simmons Jr. Pediatric Dental Alumni Meeting in February. She's one of the key presenters on this topic. And Tiffany may get ready to claw me for saying this, but I have discussed with Tiffany if she would be interested in consulting. And this is, you may be thinking, yeah, that was a private conversation. But because Tiffany is a pediatric dentist, Jay Eddy is phenomenal at this. Jay's
Hmm.
not a dentist. And I've discussed this with him, and he's really not all that attracted to starting to do private consulting. He's just, at this point in his life and his career, he's not really interested in that. So for people listening and thinking, boy, this Tiffany woman, she kind of knows what's happening. I'd like to know more about that. Um, I'll leave that to you, Tiffany, to decide where that, if it's something you are thinking about or not thinking about. Allison,
I've been here the whole time.
yeah, I know. I was hoping you were. Um, any closing remarks from Allison?
No, I was just going to say, so as we were talking, I was actually using AI in the background. We have built a new member concierge, is what we're calling it, hub. So it's got everything that you would need to access for your Fireside membership. But what I did was, Dr. Tiffany and I had talked before this about adding those resources. So all of the prompts that she mentioned, um, they are at the bottom of the page. So I just dropped it in the chat. It's hub.firesidedental.com. And so if you go to it at the top, there's a menu. And if you go to CE library, you'll see underneath that resources from our CEs. So you just click get resources. And then every single one of the prompts that Dr. Tiffany shared is there. And Dr. Tiffany, I was going to say, if you might, I'll pull this up really quickly just to show everybody. But if you wanted to walk through kind of like what each of the documents is.
Sure. So the um, first, really, the prompt would be, I included the prompt for the Brandon voice. And so,
Can you see that?
Yeah,
yes.
I see it.
So this, that knowledge file is going to give you the prompt of which you can copy and paste, and you can change and put your own information. But what I did, and what I don't want anyone to get too hung up on, is what what AI model do I use? Essentially, they all have differences, but I put that same prompt into Gemini Pro, into Perplexity, into Claude, into Gemini Thinking. They're all slightly different, but they are all so strikingly similar.
Hmm.
So, just for you to see the difference in the prompt into multiple different models, but what you really need is the brand voice prompt, that knowledge file. And from there, you can tweak that and recreate it in any way that you want to use it, to come up with something that could be very impactful for your own practice.
Yeah, so for
Very
those of you that
cool.
don't know, Tiffany is a Fireside member. I'm not sure that that was mentioned, but you should be aware of that. That
Mhm.
obviously you find enough value in the whole concept of Fireside to join and maintain your membership. Is that a fair statement?
Without reservation.
Nice. Allison starts right. She says, "I appreciate that. My husband and my child also appreciate that, by the way."
No, we've been very pleased with Fireside, and honestly, you're hoping that supply flow and the AI integration in that um,
Hmm.
will be extraordinarily impactful on that side of AI, which is sort of different than what we're talking about today.
Hmm.
But we're eager to see where that goes in the future because I think I've run out of a couple of things within the past few weeks that they did not like the fact we ran out of based upon my response. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, they're probably my team. If they knew as much about it as we do, the practice manager and I, then they'd probably really be hoping supply flow works out as well.
All righty.
Absolutely.
Um, any closing remarks that you'd like to make other than have a Jim Dandy weekend?
I think that's it. I just appreciate both of you so much. And this has been a great session. I think it was so cool to see the implications and kind of how you've approached using it and the impact it's made in your practice. And we have those resources. The hub is entirely new, so please feel free to poke around in it. Give us suggestions if there's something in there that you can't find or isn't clear to access. But we're excited about it. It's kind of a one-stop shop for everything that everyone would need and also made with AI. So lots of we're all practicing what we preach here. But appreciate both of you. We will send out the recording. The recording will be on the hub here shortly. But I hope everybody has a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend, and we will be in touch soon.
Thanks. Thanks, Tiffany. That was
Guys,
great. Tiffany,
enjoyed it, Jerry.
that was really good. Bye.
Bye bye.